Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is part 9 of the story of Prophet Moses and Prophet Aaron, peace be upon both of them. The Pharaoh unfortunately executed all 40 magicians who believed in God after seeing the miracle that Prophet Moses performed in front of them. This news spread everywhere and the towns shook from this incident. The Pharaoh was still quite mad from what happened that these magicians believed before he permitted them to do so. And he threatened to punish Prophet Moses himself under the claim that he wants to destroy the way of life and tear the community apart by taking Bani Israel out of Egypt. Isn't it amazing that the Pharaoh is preaching to his people about tearing the community apart while actually enslaving part of society? He's enslaving Bani Israel. He's simply mad at the possibility of losing the slaves. It's not that he cares about them. He does not want to lose his assets, basically. Moses made a dua seeking protection from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala against this tyrant. There was also one Egyptian man who believes in God but concealed his faith to avoid punishment from the Pharaoh. This is explicitly mentioned in the Quran in Surah Ghafir, verse 28. This man defended Moses. He said to the Egyptians, "Are you really going to punish someone for simply believing in God?" And he came to you with clear signs and miracles to prove he's telling the truth. If he's lying, it's on him. Leave him alone. And if he's telling the truth, then you would enjoy the bounties he's promising whoever believes in God. Unfortunately, that did not go too far with the Egyptians. The Pharaoh actually ramped up the punishments and oppression of Bani Israel to deter them from following Moses. Moses asked Bani Israel to be patient and ask for strength and patience from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Bani Israel, however, said to Moses, "We have been punished and tortured before you came and after you came." They are complaining that Moses has not actually helped them. Moses made dua and said, "May Allah destroy your enemy." To give them some hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's help and support is coming, one just needs to be patient. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala responded and started to send punishments and calamities on the Egyptians. The first punishment that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent was drought. No rain was coming down at all. The Nile started to dry up, severe shortage of water. Then a second calamity came. The crops and fruits started to go bad. Very bad harvest season. The Egyptians got even more upset at Bani Israel and accused them of bringing this bad luck. Moses said, "Believe, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will lift off this punishment." The Egyptians said, "No matter what miracles and signs you bring on us, we would not believe in your magic." They still believe that all this is simply magic. In total, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent them 9 different forms of miracles to show them. Number 1 was when Moses threw down the walking stick and became a snake. Number 2, when he pulled out his hand, and even though he's dark-skinned, his hand was glowing white. Number 3 was this drought. Number 4 was the shortage of crops and fruits. Then after that, flood. And after that, cicadas, the insect. And then after that, lice, also another insect. And then frogs, and the last one was blood. Each of these calamities targeted the Egyptians alone and not Bani Israel. For example, during the flood, water would enter an Egyptian home and flood it, but it does not flood the homes of Bani Israel. The cicadas will get into their homes, their clothes, their food, but it did not bother Bani Israel. Interestingly, during each of these calamities, the Pharaoh himself would back off. He would come to Moses and ask him to pray to his God to lift off the punishment. And he says to Moses, "If you do, we would believe in you and send Bani Israel with you." Remember, these are the 2 tasks that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked Moses and Aaron to accomplish. This is it. These are the 2 items of their mission. And as soon as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lift off a calamity, the Pharaoh and the Egyptians would renege and they do not fulfill their promise. I want to stop here for a second. Doesn't this mean that the Pharaoh actually believes that there is God? Because he's asking Moses to pray to God to lift off the calamity. Then what's the problem? The problem is arrogance. The Pharaoh does not want to be humbled. He does not want to bow down and worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In any case, the last of the calamities was the blood. Everything turned into blood. An Egyptian would scoop water from the Nile and it turns into blood. So they could not drink. So the Pharaoh now gave an oath to Moses that if he lifted this calamity, he would really send Bani Israel with him. Do you think the Pharaoh honored this oath? This is what we cover next time in the next post, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.